This 7th generation Fiesta has grown up a bit, but it hasn't lost the youthful, eager feel that endeared previous generation models to so many supermini buyers. Beneath the smarter styling lies some clever user-friendly technology and cabin quality that'll make downsizing into one of these less of a chore. This is how you write a bestseller.
What's been the world's most significant car in the last half a century? Well, this is our nomination, Ford's Fiesta, rejuvenated here in Mark 7 model guise for a fresh generation of buyers. The figures speak for themselves. Since this supermini was first launched back in 1976, over 17 million models have been sold, 4.5 million of them here in the UK, which is why, to keep up with demand, a Fiesta currently rolls off the Cologne production line every 68 seconds. The appeal of this car shows no signs of tailing off either. In this country, we bought more than 1 million examples of the previous Mark 6 model, which was launched in 2008, and it's been our market's best-selling car for the last 8 years. Forget Mondeo, man. We are, in short, a nation of Fiesta folk. It is an astonishing success story, particularly given that in the past, the only area in which Fiesta models have really excelled has been in driving dynamics, and that's usually one of the less important attributes for supermini buyers. You'd certainly expect that if Ford were going to continue this sales dominance, at least in our market, greater efforts would be needed. Now, given that, it is somewhat surprising to be presented with a 7th generation model that looks so similar to its predecessor. Don't be fooled though. The Blue Oval brand has changed virtually everything, and we mean almost everything. Out of around 2,500 parts that are needed to create a Fiesta, only around 200 have been carried over. Believe it or not, the bodywork is completely new, so is the suspension, and as a result, the driving dynamics promise to be even better than ever. There's a brand new interior that's fashioned with much higher quality, and buyers will benefit from a fresh era of media connectivity and camera-driven safety technology. There's also a much wider choice of derivatives than before, with hot hatches, a super luxury Vignale version, and even a Fiesta active crossover model in the mix. This is, in short, on paper at least, a thoroughly well thought out piece of supermini development. But will it be enough to keep Ford at the top of the sales charts? Let's find out. Variations on the Fiesta theme may come and go, but before driving any version of Ford's definitive supermini, there's one thing you almost always tend to know for certain, that it'll be a great steer. Now this time around, the Blue Oval brand has sought to retain that traditional Fiesta attribute, yet at the same time introduce a standard of ride quality closer to that delivered by arch rivals like Volkswagen's Polo. Anybody hear alarm bells? Yeah, us too. Still, let's judge Ford's engineers on what they've achieved. The magazine and the website reviews that you'll see on this car suggest that all derivatives deliver great dynamic responses, but the truth is that the feel you'll get from this Fiesta depends quite a lot on the variant of it that you choose. Now that's because two quite different chassis configurations have been used across the range. Now, most of the journalists seem to have tried the firmer package used by the very sporty ST models, but here with this Volume Z-Tech variant, we've chosen to test the softer setup that's used elsewhere in the range, and that's the one that majority of customers will end up with. In this guise, the car remains a great steer, but it isn't quite the sharp, eager thing we remember from before. As advertised though, ride quality is hugely improved, as you'd think it would be given the whole suspension setup has been completely redesigned with bigger axle mounts that iron out road imperfections. If you're a Fiesta fan, you'll really notice the improvements that this car can offer over its predecessor in that regard, especially over broken urban tarmac surfaces. The whole car has a more mature, grown-up feel that we think the majority of owners will like, although the payoff for that lies in a slight degree of extra body roll through tighter bends. All of this is relative though. By the standards of the supermini segment, this Fiesta, even in this dialed down form, can still offer a level of handling joie de vivre that's beyond anything its competitors can achieve. But Ford has managed to retain this advantage while making such great strides forward in ride quality says a great deal for the efforts of the engineering team behind this 7th generation model. Mind you, they have had some good raw materials to work with. The new body is 15% stiffer this time around, yet it remains one of the lightest in the class, which always helps. Stability has been aided by a widening of the front and rear tracks, and there's the best torque vectoring system in the segment, this being one of those setups that works when you're powering through tight turns to apply an imperceptibly small amount of braking to the inside front wheels, assisting tractional stability and firing you from bend to bend. As a result, you can throw this car into corners at speeds that most rivals just wouldn't be able to countenance. And you can do so with confidence-inspiring feedback through the wheel. The electric steering rack introduced into the Fiesta model line back in 2012 has been upgraded this time around, so it's lighter when you need it to be when you're nipping around town, but it's weightier and more feelsome when you're pushing on, which is one of the reasons why we think you'll feel so at one with this car in wet or slippery conditions. Of course, the sportier, firmly suspended, more enthusiast-orientated ST line and ST models are even better in this regard, delivering greater grip, a reduction in body roll, and most of the endearing eagerness we were lamenting the slight absence of earlier. You'll be wanting to know about engines. Well, the changes here aren't huge. All the volume petrol units are of the currently fashionable 3-cylinder configuration, and around 60% of buyers will continue to opt for the 1 litre T EcoBoost turbo unit that we've chosen to try here in the volume 100 PS state of tune that most buyers will want. Now, this engine doesn't have the balancer shaft that calms down the rival PSA Group's 3-cylinder unit, hence the buzzy thrum that you get under hard acceleration, but the sound isn't unpleasant and it could even be said to add something to the character of the car. If you're quick with the slick 6-speed stick shift that all turbo Fiestas get, 62 miles an hour from rest occupies 10.5 seconds en route to 113 miles an hour, or at least it does in the manual model. This particular engine is the only one in the range that can be ordered with the option of automatic transmission, and in that guise the sprint figure slows to 12.2 seconds and the efficiency readings take a dive. In an era where rival Volkswagen Group models are featuring DSG auto boxes which are able to actually improve performance and efficiency, it's clear that Ford needs to play catch up here. Other variations on the Fiesta 1 litre EcoBoost theme include 2 pokier derivations of the same engine. Regular Fiesta buyers may remember the uprated 125 PS version of this unit from before, in which form the performance figures are improved to 9.9 seconds and 121 miles an hour. This time around, there's also the option of having that power plant in a top 140 PS state of tune on variants further up the range, in which case the figures are 9 seconds and 125 miles an hour. At the other extreme, in the previous generation model, it was additionally possible to order this 1 litre engine in 80 PS, normally aspirated form, but Ford hasn't carried that option over into this 7th generation model. It hasn't needed to, because entry-level Fiesta motoring is now taken care of by a power plant that's new to the range, a 1.1 litre TI VCT 3-cylinder unit available with either 70 or 85 PS. Now, this engine borrows much from the brand's EcoBoost technology, and it's been mated to a manual gearbox that we're told has been freshly developed for the range, despite the fact that it soldiers on with only 5 speeds. Certainly a huge step forward from the previous thirsty, feebly performing, old tech 1.25 litre 4-cylinder engine that Ford's dealers will be pleased to see the back of. The base 70 PS 1.1 TI VCT variant manages 62 miles an hour from rest in 14.9 seconds en route to 99 miles an hour, while the 85 PS version improves those figures to 14 seconds and 105 miles an hour. It is a bit disappointing though that with this engine Ford hasn't fitted the rear disc brakes that you get in most other models. There have been some developments on the diesel front too. The 1.5 litre TDCi 4-cylinder unit used before is retained, but its entry-level output has been improved by 10 PS to 85 PS, plus a high-performance TDCi variant has been introduced for the first time, this uprated 1.5 litre model putting out 120 PS. At a time when the death knell is being sounded for diesel by both rival brands and European governments, this is quite a vote of confidence in black pump fuel motoring. The performance stats see the lesser powered derivative making 62 mph from rest in 12.5 seconds on the way to 108 miles an hour, while the higher powered variant improves that showing to 9 seconds and 121 miles an hour. Now, these power plants will be of particular interest to customers of the active crossover derivative that should widen the appeal of the range. The final engine we've yet to mention is also 1.5 litres in size, a petrol EcoBoost unit developing a potent 200 PS and reserved for the full-fat ST hot hatch model, which, so powered, is capable of 62 mph from rest in just 6.7 seconds. Ultimately, it's hard to go too far wrong with any of the Fiesta power plants, all of which reek of clever, thoughtful design and perfectly suit the way this car is comfortable jinking through the city as it is when entertaining you through the back doubles. We would suggest, though, that this particular car's 1 litre T EcoBoost petrol unit is a bestseller for a reason, as is the Fiesta itself. So everything's changed, but almost nothing is different. Now, if you know anything about this car, then come face to face with it. That might be your first perspective on this 7th generation Fiesta's design. It was certainly ours. Now, Ford certainly could have done something radically new. In fact, in many ways, though, they have. Dimensionally, after all, this is actually quite a fundamentally altered product. It's 17 millimeters longer, 13 mils wider, and 20 millimeters lower than before. Plus, virtually every constituent part of this car is different. You can see, though, why the brand wanted the look and feel of this supermini to stay much the same. The company's European design director, Joel Piaskowski, says that he wanted to evolve the styling in a way that would make it more contemporary without losing the essential Fiesta-ness that customers love. And that's what's been delivered. Get up close and personal here at the front and you begin to appreciate the thought that's gone into this approach. Smoothing out the previous model's central bonnet bulge gives the car a cleaner, smoother and more sculpted look, and it better emphasises this smarter, wider grille. The headlamps are sleeker too, and providing you avoid entry-level trim, they will come fitted with integrated LED daytime running lights. These fog lamp panels are also quite different, fashioned like this central lower air intake for better aerodynamics. Move around to the side and you get a better perspective for the slightly bigger size of this car this time around, and for the way that Ford has tried to make the profile more settled and less aggressively wedge-shaped. The central belt line that runs along the bottom of the windows into the headlamp is better defined this time around, as is this additional crease that flows through the door handles. There's further careful sculpting just above these lower side sills, and they separate wheel arches that have to be bigger this time around to house larger wheels. 15-inch rims are now the smallest you can have. We've got these 16 inches here, but there are also 17 and even 18-inch sizes if you want them. It's at the rear, though, that the styling differences of this car in comparison to its predecessor are most pronounced, with the most obvious change being the switch from the previous model's vertical tail lamps to these horizontally shaped clusters that feature a more distinctive C-shaped signature light pattern. The idea is to emphasise this Mark 7 model's wider stance and broader shoulders, hence also the way that this restyled bumper has been scalloped to include these reflective lenses in its far corners. A neater, more integrated roof-mounted tailgate spoiler completes the effect, and if you are a real stickler for detail, up here you might also notice that the shut line between the roof and the tailgate is now much narrower. It's reduced by 30%. It's an example of what Ford says is an obsession with quality this time around. As usual though, what's more important is the stuff you can't see. Under the skin of this Mark 7 model lies a thoroughly reworked version of the Global B platform used in the previous model, upgraded with more laser welding, stiffer attachment points, and underpinning a body structure featuring 35% more ultra-high strength boron steel. As a result of all this, there's a 15% improvement in torsional stiffness. All this is welcome, but as we've been saying, much of the improvement's invisible. Time to take you to a part of the car where the changes really are very evident. Here at the wheel. It's quite different, isn't it? And it needed to be. Cabin quality was what let down the previous model with its cheap finishes and confusing button clutter. Forget all that now though. There are flush, seamless surfaces, soft touch plastic coatings and neat splashes of chrome. Plus it all seems to have been very well screwed together by the factory in Cologne. Other than that, the first thing you'll probably notice is the infotainment system that now sprouts in freestanding form from the top of the center console. The screen options vary depending on the model or options that you choose. There are 4.2, 6.5 or, as in this case, 8-inch sizes, all featuring pin-sharp graphics, logical menus and fast processor speeds. In all cases, thank goodness, you get a proper rotary volume and zoom control that some rival systems have unwisely dispensed with. The two bigger monitors you can have both showcase Ford's latest Sync 3 infotainment setup, which allows for easy app integration and also functionality that allows you to duplicate the operation of your smartphone onto this central fascia screen via either Apple CarPlay or the MirrorLink Android Auto system. If you're not familiar with the Sync package, it doesn't take long to adjust to it, with the central dash monitor divided into sectors that allow you to activate audio, phone and, where fitted, sat-nav functions via touchscreen icons. Heating and ventilation is covered off by separate switchgear further down the centre stack, which is just as well because the display icons on the monitor can be a bit fiddly to use despite the inclusion of smartphone-style pinch and swipe functionality. So instead of stabbing away at the screen graphics, it's better to try to master the system's impressive voice-activated functionality, and that will allow you to issue simple one-shot commands simply by saying phrases like "I need a coffee," "I need petrol," or "I need to park." You can easily locate nearby cafes, petrol stations or car parks and find destinations like train stations, airports and hotels. Anything this display can't tell you will be covered off by the further 4.2-inch monitor that you'll find in the instrument binnacle, dealing with the usual trip computer functions and offering up an attractive welcome sequence at startup. Now you view this through a smarter, higher quality 3-spoke steering wheel, the TFT screen sitting above small fuel and temperature gauges and flanked by big, clear speed and rev counter dials. It's all very user-friendly and ergonomically spot on, which is one reason why it's easy to feel so comfortable in this car. There's a usefully wide range of seat and wheel adjustment. The driver's chair itself is supportive and you sit a little higher up than in some rivals, which is a boon when you're trying to negotiate tight city streets. Rear three-quarter vision isn't quite so good. The small rear side windows hampering your over-the-shoulder view, so we would suggest that you opt for one of the packages that'll throw in rear parking sensors. The more that we've lived with this car, the more we've appreciated the little touches that Ford has thought so much about this time around. The optional B&O Plate 10-speaker audio system we're trying here is a great addition to the range, but less obvious changes have also contributed a lot to our enjoyment of this 7th generation model. The way that the doors now require 20% less effort to close, the way that the wipers now clear 13% more of a windscreen that on most models features an integrated quick clear heating element that'll de-ice it on frosty mornings, and also the fact that you get much more interior storage than was on offer in the previous model. There's a big 1 litre area at the bottom of the centre stack here with a USB port nearby, and that'll be ideal for your mobile phone. Plus you get an integrated pair of cup holders next to the gear lever here, and another one further back along with a USB port in this open bin. Now this area would be covered by an armrest in a plusher model. The door pockets, well, they're a bit small, but you do get an overhead compartment for your sunglasses, a coin tray under the handbrake lever, and a further cubby by the driver's right knee. Illuminated vanity mirrors are built into both sun visors, and you also get a reasonably sized glove box too. It's 20% larger than before, and it's big enough to incorporate an optional CD player if you still want to play some of your old plastic discs. Inevitably, there are a few issues, things we'd want Ford to look at for the facelift. There are no roofline grab handles of the kind that help older folk get in. The cruise control buttons on the steering wheel are a bit fiddly. Plus the centre dash touchscreen attracts reflections, and the ventilation vents beneath it freeze your fingers if you linger too long on the controls. Now, I mentioned build quality earlier on. Well, the glove box lid and the door handles let the side down a bit here. But what's important is that the bits you regularly interact with, the wheel, the gear knob and the indicator stalks, for example, all feel significantly more upmarket than is the case with most rivals. Time to take a seat in the rear. Now, as you can see, we've got the 5-door body shape that customers who'll be regularly using the back seats will want. Ford has tried to look after these people better this time around. That is, after all, the thinking behind increasing the length of the car by 70mm and incorporating thoughtful design touches, like the way that the sleeker silhouette better channels rainwater away from the roof edges, reducing the risk of passengers being dripped on when they get in or out of the car. Get yourself into the back seat, and as usual, your impressions will be heavily influenced by whatever preconceptions you start out with. Now, if you come to this car fresh from ownership of the previous generation model, then it's likely you'll view Ford's greater efforts in this part of the cabin in a positive light. There is, after all, 16mm more knee room than there was before, plus the seats are softer and they offer greater side-to-side support. Should you be trying a Fiesta having sampled a more spacious supermini rival though, and there are plenty, then you'll probably be a little less inclined to be quite so generous. There's no really clever stuff here like the cinema style flip-up seat bases you'll find in a rival Honda Jazz, or the reclining seat backrests you get in a rival Mini 5-door, but then we didn't really expect that. The issue is whether Ford's properly covered off the basics here. So, is that the case? Well, really tall folk will certainly need cooperation from those ahead to get truly comfortable in terms of leg space. If you've lanky teenage children who are likely to be regularly sitting in the back, then don't order a model fitted with the optional panoramic glass roof, because with that feature fitted, they are going to struggle for headspace. Most bars, of course, will merely be carrying small children back here, although even a youngster will only want to travel short distances in the middle of this rear bench because the cushion's quite narrow. Still, both outer seats now feature load limiters and pre-tensioners for the first time, plus you get the expected ISOFIX child seat fastenings. Small door bins and mat pockets are provided for storage, and it's easy for rear folk to access this central cup holder between the seats. Finally, we're going to take a look in the boot, but we'll pause on the way to mention the Ford Easy Fuel capless refuelling system that's designed to stop you from putting diesel into a petrol model or vice versa. Now, what's it like back here? Well, previous owners might notice that the tailgate's now wider to give easier cargo area access, but they'll grouse about the fact that there's still quite a high sill to heave bigger shopping bags over. Mind you, that's common to many cars in this class, and the hassle it causes is minimised if you pay the small amount extra for the optional adjustable boot load floor. A couple of small pockets in either side are ideal for stowing smaller bits and pieces, but there's not much space beneath the cargo floor, despite the absence of any kind of spare wheel. And that's an oversight now sadly common with the majority of models in the supermini segment. The extra body length has allowed the cargo area to be 17 litres larger than it was before, now rated at 292 litres for both body shapes. Now that figure is only average by class standards, but if you are able to flatten the 60/40 split folding rear backrest, you'll free up one of the better total capacity figures in the class, 1,093 litres. The Ford's floor does have quite a step in it when the rear seats tip forward, but you can alleviate that with the adjustable boot load floor I mentioned earlier. Like most superminis, this Fiesta sells mainly in the £13,000 to £20,000 bracket, and there's a pretty typical £650 premium if you want to progress from the 3-door to the 5-door body style that 70% of customers want. The lineup's propped up by one of Ford's oldest power plants, a 1.1 litre TI VCT petrol unit putting out either 70 or 85 PS, the only unit in the range that has 5 rather than 6 speeds in its manual gearbox. The base spec engine alternative that you'll be offered is the 1.5 litre TDCi 85 PS diesel variant, which requires the £2,000 premium. List pricing suggests that the least expensive Fiesta TDCi will cost you around £15,000, which is also the kind of budget you'll need for the least expensive 1 litre T EcoBoost 3-cylinder turbo petrol model. That's the engine that the majority of Fiesta customers tend to go for. This base EcoBoost unit is the only one in the range that can be ordered with the option of an auto gearbox, and that's an extra £1,350. There are other engine options, Pokia 125 and 140 PS versions of the EcoBoost petrol power plant and a gutsier 120 PS version of that 1.5 litre diesel. But to get them, you have to progress to a much pricier level of trim, either one of the luxurious titanium models or one of the sporty ST line derivatives. Now, yes, trim. In terms of spec variations, there's the widest range of options we've seen from this model line in its long and varied 40-year history. The titanium and ST line premium variants I just mentioned slot in above the usual baseline style and Z-Tech derivatives. Plus, there's the full-fat ST hot hatch. Fresh further additions this time around that rival brands are going to have to copy include the Vignale super luxury version and the active crossover model. As for where this slots into the Ford lineup, well, I think in terms of a Fiesta costing around £3,000 more than the brand's KA Plus 5-door city car and around £4,000 less than a comparable version of the company's Focus family hatchback, and you'll be about right. On to the value proposition offered by mainstream Fiesta models. Now, as far as it can, Ford has price matched this car against the supermini segment heavy hitters with some success. Now, you might easily save a little in buying a Fiesta over the kind of sum you'd have to find for a directly comparable Volkswagen Polo or Peugeot 208. An equivalent Seat Ibiza, Toyota Yaris or Mazda 2 will cost you about the same as this Ford. And if you're looking at this Fiesta's volume EcoBoost and diesel units, comparably engined models in the Hyundai i20 range will cost you around about the same too. In terms of sales volume in the UK, Vauxhall's Corsa is probably this Fiesta's biggest threat. The Corsa is a car that can look a little cheaper than this Ford, but if you get it with one of the Griffin maker's more up-to-date engines, that price advantage tends to disappear. And you'll probably find that prices are very comparable, particularly once your local Blue Oval brand dealer has sharpened his pencil. As for other supermini segment rivals, well, you could probably save a fraction by opting for contenders like Nissan's Micra, Kia's Rio, Honda's Jazz or Renault's Clio, but it wouldn't really be very much. Bigger savings around £1,500 are possible if you're prepared to consider contenders like Citroen's C3 and Skoda's Fabia. Now, Ford will hope that this Fiesta's better driving dynamics and higher technology will give it an advantage here. A Suzuki Swift could save you around £2,500 over this Blue Oval brand model, but in that case, you'll have to put up with a smaller boot and higher noise levels. Other than that, if you really want to save a lot of cash on this pricing in this sector, then you'd need to turn to a really cheap-feeling budget brand supermini model, a Dacia Sandero or an MG3, for instance. But in those cases, you really get what you don't pay for. It is worth pointing out, though, that of all the rivals just mentioned, only the Volkswagen Polo, the Peugeot 208, the Vauxhall Corsa and the Hyundai i20 are available with a 3-door body shape. So if you are one of the 30% of Fiesta buyers looking for a supermini in that format, your list of alternative options is going to be much reduced. If, having considered all of this, you conclude that it is a Fiesta that you really want, then you're going to need to know just how generous Ford has been with the standard spec. And the answer is, whichever Fiesta model you choose, you should find your car to be pretty well equipped. Even with base style trim, you get air conditioning, Bluetooth with the My Ford device dock for your smartphone handset, and an emergency assistance system that'll automatically summon help should the airbags go off. Other standard features include a 6-speaker audio system, a trip computer, driver's seat height adjustment, daytime running lights, auto headlamps, a speed limiter and a pretty complete package of safety features that we'll cover later. Plus there's the Ford My Key system that lets you set certain functions that can be restricted with the spare individual key fob provided. So for instance, the volume of the stereo or the maximum speed can be limited for younger drivers. As a parent, that feature alone would really sell me this car. Most Fiesta buyers, though, start their perusal of the range from Zetec spec, which is what we've got here. Now, that's where you have to do if you're looking at the 1-litre EcoBoost petrol engine that the majority of customers want. Now, it's from Zetec trim that Ford starts to build in its more modern infotainment technology in the form of the Sync 3 system that we've seen on some of the company's larger models. This comes with a 6.5-inch touchscreen, a DAB tuner, 2 USB sockets and access to the Apple CarPlay and Android Auto smartphone mirroring systems. Zetec variants also get extra exterior chrome work, 15-inch alloy wheels, a quick clear heated windscreen, leather trim for the steering wheel and the gear knob, LED daytime running lights and front fog lamps that turn with the bends. As an option, you can go for a B&O Play Zetec series variant that gives you a 10-speaker, 675-watt B&O premium audio system with 360-degree sound, a larger 8-inch centre dash Sync 3 colour touchscreen with navigation, and unique mint or copper exterior paint with colour-coordinated interior trim. If you want to go further in the Fiesta lineup, you have the choice of getting a package of either sporty touches or some luxurious ones. If you're going the sporty route, you'll want to consider one of the ST line variants. Those are derivatives that build on Zetec trim with a package of items that give this car a more dynamic feel. So for example, standard ST line trim gets you 17-inch alloy wheels, a full body styling kit with unique front fog lamps and a large rear spoiler, sports front seats, sports pedals, a flat bottom steering wheel and a sports tuned suspension. Pricier ST line X trim additionally gets you a few extra luxury features: part leather trim for the sports seats, cruise control, a range sensing wipers, an auto dimming rear view mirror, climate control, rear privacy glass, power folding mirrors, and again that larger 8-inch Sync 3 fascia screen with navigation. If, on the other hand, the luxury side of life appeals, titanium variants build on Zetec trim with 16-inch alloy wheels, LED rear lights, power folding mirrors, rear privacy glass, cruise control, rain sensing wipers and an auto dimming rear view mirror. Also climate control and that larger 8-inch Sync 3 fascia screen with navigation. As at Zetec level, there's a separate stereo themed variant, the B&O Play Titanium series model, which adds to the titanium tally with that special audio system, the special mint or copper paintwork and the colour coordinated cabin. If you can stretch to the plush Titanium X derivative, then you'll get the B&O audio package fitted as standard, along with part leather upholstery, keyless entry, heat for the steering wheel and the front seats, a rear view camera and electric rear windows on the 5-door body style. The final 3 Fiesta variants are really standalone models. So let's start with the derivative we've seen before, the ST Hot Hatch. This time around it's an even more serious proposition, powered by a 1.5-litre EcoBoost engine, putting out 200 PS for serious performance, and that'll be emphasised by packaging that includes Recaro sports seats, twin exhausts and red brake calipers. If you're in the junior GTI market, that'll be tempting. But what about if you're one of the increasing number of buyers who are forsaking the supermini segment in favour of small Nissan Juke or Renault Captur style SUVs? Well, if previously you've traditionally favoured a Fiesta, don't go looking at one of those crossover class cars just yet, because Ford wants you to consider the Fiesta Active. Now this is essentially a Fiesta with a raised ride height, roof rails, special wheels, skid plate style body kit and a range of so-called extra lifestyle touches. Engine-wise, Fiesta Active buyers get the pick of what's on offer amongst upper spec models in the standard range. In its own way, the final variant we want to highlight, the Vignale version, is equally unusual in its segment. Now this model builds more luxury into a car of this kind than we've ever seen in a supermini before, as you would have a right to expect from the required £20,000 budget that's necessary for ownership. Big 17-inch 10-spoke wheels and a unique front grille distinguish the outside of a Fiesta Vignale, while inside buyers are pampered with black ruby leather upholstery and an openable full-length panoramic roof, plus all the titanium X trim niceties. It'll be really interesting to see how buyers at the top end of the supermini segment respond to an offering of this kind. Now, previous Vignale models have only been available at a selection of 70 hand-picked Ford store dealerships. In contrast, this flagship Fiesta will be available right across the dealer network, although as a Vignale buyer, you'll get a more personal service from Ford store outlets if you happen to be close to one. Enough on the standard models in the range. Let's assume that you've chosen the Fiesta variant you want and you're ready to start considering the possibility of adding on a few options. Common additions include an adjustable height boot floor, door edge protectors, a CD player that's mounted in the glove box, and a comfort pack that gives you heat for the front seats and also for the steering wheel. Now, if the variant that you're looking at doesn't have the B&O premium audio system I mentioned earlier, well, take it from us, you're really going to want to add this setup in once you've heard it. What else? Well, on this Volume Z-Tech model, many buyers pay extra for navigation and most tick the box for the City Pack, which will give them rear parking sensors and power folding mirrors. Rear parking sensors can also be ordered as a standalone option or packaged up with an advanced auto park assistance system and or a rear view camera. On variants lower down the range, we would want to add in lumbar support for the driver's seat. And if we were buying a titanium derivative, then we might want to look at adding the openable panoramic glass roof. Onto aesthetics. If you don't want your car painted in race red or blazer blue, those are the standard colours, you're going to have to pay more for one of the extra cost premium or exclusive body colours. We've got premium frozen white here. If you've opted for one of the titanium or ST line trimmed variants, then with certain of the shades available, you'll also be able to specify a contrast coloured roof finish in either red, white or black. As you'd expect, there's also a wide range of optional alloy wheel designs available in either 15, 16, 17 or even 18-inch rim sizes. This Z-Tech model features the 16-inch alloy wheel style pack, which as well as these bigger rims also includes rear privacy glass and smart front door threshold plates. Talking of extra interior touches, let's also mention that ST Line X buyers can get a red pack that adds red highlights around the cabin. On to practical touches. Now, first and foremost, we'd want a spare wheel. Unfortunately, you don't get one as standard. Bear in mind that you can't have one either if you specify your car with either the B&O stereo system or the panoramic glass roof. Adding in those panoramic panels will also compromise you if you want to add in roof carrying rails. There are the usual extra cost floor mats and mud flaps, bumper protectors and air deflectors. Plus, you might want to protect the boot area with a liner and add in a load retention guard and or a load compartment tray. Enough with general options, let's consider this Fiesta's safety credentials. Ford says that the B-pillar and the doors have been redesigned to provide better side impact protection this time around, and every variant is fitted with twin front, side and curtain airbags. The side bags have been designed to lift the occupant's arm away from the impact zone. Some rivals include a driver's knee bag too, but Ford says that this Fiesta doesn't need one of those thanks to a clever locking seatbelt tongue attachment on the driver's belt that prevents slippage of that belt during an accident. For the first time, the rear outer seats feature load limiters and pre-tensioners. And another safety improvement this time around lies in the fact that inside the doors are pressure sensors that enable restraint systems to be activated several milliseconds earlier in the event of a side impact. Pedestrian protection is enhanced with headlamps that are designed to travel rearwards on impact. Plus, there's a collapsible cowl and wiper spindle assembly designed to give way in the event of head impacts. This was the first small car to be fitted with ABS braking back in 1989, and today you also get ESP stability control, tyre pressure monitoring and hill start assist to stop you from drifting backwards on uphill junctions. For highway safety, all variants get two features that you wouldn't expect to see fitted right across the range on a Super Mini. There's a lane keeping alert system that warns you if you're veering out of your lane, and a lane keeping aid that will automatically steer you gently back to where you should be. The titanium and higher spec models also have traffic sign recognition that pictures road signs as you pass them and then displays them for you on the dash, and auto high beam that automatically dips your headlights at night in the face of oncoming traffic. Want to go further? Then you'll want to look at one of the optional drive assistance packs, which use a technology package incorporating 2 cameras, 3 radars and 12 ultrasonic sensors, which together are able to monitor 360 degrees around the vehicle and scan the road ahead up to a distance of 130 metres. That's more than the length of a football pitch. On lower spec models, this camera-driven safety package builds in the traffic sign recognition and auto high beam features if the Fiesta variant that you've chosen doesn't have those. Plus, you also get 3 additional elements: adaptive cruise control, and that will automatically regulate your speed to surrounding traffic on the highway. Distance alert, now that will warn you if you're getting too close to the car in front, and pre-collision assist with pedestrian detection. Now that is one of those autonomous braking systems that, as you drive, scans the road ahead for potential collision hazards with a particular focus on pedestrians. It even works at night. If something you might be about to hit is detected, you'll be warned. If you don't respond, or perhaps you aren't able to, then the brakes will automatically be applied to decrease the severity of any resulting accident. As an extra option on most models, it's also possible to order a blind spot information system with cross-traffic alert setup. Now this works on the move to warn you if you're about to pull out to overtake when there's a vehicle in your blind spot, and it also warns you of oncoming traffic when you're reversing out of a parking space. One of Ford's priorities this time around was to get the Fiesta's efficiency figures up to scratch right across the range. In the previous generation lineup, the figures you got from the 1-litre T EcoBoost turbo petrol 3-cylinder power plant and the TDCi diesel units were exemplary, but these were comparatively pricey engine options. In contrast, the returns delivered by the old-fashioned 1.25-litre petrol unit that budget-minded customers often found themselves stuck with at the bottom of the range were terrible. In this day and age, a Super Mini that's unable to crack 55 miles per gallon on the combined cycle and which puts out more than 120 grams per kilometre of CO2 has an efficiency problem. Ford had to sort that, and they have. This time around, there's the fresh, normally aspirated entry-level engine on offer, a 1.1-litre TI VCT 3-cylinder power plant that shares much of the technology of the Pokia EcoBoost turbo units, including, crucially, their engine stop-start systems. As a result, the figures you get are now sensible by class standards, although they're still not quite as impressive as those of the petrol turbo models. This base engine comes in either 70 or 85 PS guises, and either way it delivers 64.2 mpg on the combined cycle and 101 grams per kilometre of CO2. If you can stretch up to the 1-litre T EcoBoost turbo petrol variant, then the figures improve to 65.7 mpg and around 97 grams of CO2. That's if you go for this unit in its volume 100 PS or 125 PS guises. The 100 PS EcoBoost model is the only one in the range that can be paired up with automatic transmission, but if you choose that option, you'll have to stomach a big deterioration in running cost performance. The PowerShift Auto variant manages only 54.3 mpg and 118 grams per kilometre. In the unlikely event that you've chosen a sportier model with the 1-litre T power plant in its Pokia 140 PS state of tune, the figures will be 62.8 mpg and 102 grams per kilometre of CO2. There are diesel options too. Ford obviously still thinks there's a market for that in this segment, and certainly at first glance the returns delivered by the pair of 1.5 litre TDCi models appear to be tempting. The NEDC figures suggest that both the 85 and 120 PS variants are capable of up to 88.3 mpg on the combined cycle. As for CO2, with the lesser powered version you can manage up to 82 grams per kilometre. With the 120 PS derivative, the reading is 89 grams per kilometre. That's all well and good, but if you're a private buyer you should still bear in mind that you'd have to cover around 80,000 miles in your TDCi Fiesta before the fuel economy gains would offset the diesel variant's much higher asking price. We've already referenced the way that Ford's auto stop-start system helps with those returns, and the contribution is welcome given the fact that this Mark 7 model weighs in at 33 kilos heavier than its predecessor. Manual models also get an eco button placed down by the gear lever, which adjusts the throttle and the engine settings to give the best economy possible. The brand's keen to suggest that sleeker aerodynamics this time might be playing their part too, although the quoted CD drag coefficient figure is virtually the same as before. EcoBoost and TDCi variants benefit from the addition of an active grille shutter, which sees slats in the front grille remaining closed at startup so the power plant can more quickly warm up to its optimum operating temperature. On the move, the flaps can open or shut for optimum aerodynamic efficiency. What else? Well, let's tell you about servicing, which on all engines is required every 2 years or 18,000 miles, whichever comes first. 2 prepaid servicing plans are available, one that costs £340 and covers you for 2 years and 2 services, and another that costs £550 is transferable to future owners and covers you for 3 years and 3 services. Maintenance bookings can be done online through the My Ford portal. This is part of the Ford Blue service scheme that wraps up all the care and maintenance of your car into one bundle, and it includes a free 30-point e-check of vital parts and highlights any work required with a red, amber and green traffic light warning to rank items that need attention in order of importance. There's also the Ford Service app that you can download to your phone for free. It lets you locate the nearest dealer and make a booking, plus it has a couple of extra elements. It allows you to find petrol stations, and it includes a Park Me feature that remembers where you left your Fiesta, so you won't be hunting for it in, well, say, busy multi-stories. As for the warranty, well, like all Fords, this one comes with a 36-month, 60,000 mile package that includes a 1 year of Europe-wide breakdown assistance. On top of that, there's an anti-corrosion guarantee for 12 years. Onto insurance, and that's an important consideration for the many younger buyers who choose Fiestas. If you want really affordable ratings, then predictably you'll need the base 1.1 litre engine, which in 70 PS form is pitched at Group 2E, while the 85 PS version is Group 5E. The volume 1 litre T EcoBoost 100 PS petrol engine comes in at Group 10E. The 125 PS version of that 1 litre T engine is rated at either 12E or 13E, depending on the trim level chosen, while the pokiest 140 PS 1 litre T derivative is rated at Group 15E. If you're after a diesel, the base 85 PS 1.5 litre TDCi variant is rated at Group 80, while the 120 PS TDCi model comes in at Group 14E or 15E, depending on your trim choice. Finally, let's consider the question of residual values. Now, this area has never been a Fiesta strength, but experts predict that this Mark 7 model will perform much better than its predecessor. Ford says it surveyed 6 major residual value providers and found that a typical Fiesta model, 1 litre T EcoBoost 5-door titanium derivative, would, according to these experts, retain an average of £1,272 more of its value after 3 years than the directly equivalent variant in the Mark 6 model range could manage. Now, if you want percentage figures, let's tell you that after 3 years and 30,000 miles, independent sources suggest that you'll be looking at retained values of between 35 and 41% of your original purchase price. If you want percentage figures, then they'll tell you after 3 years and 30,000 miles, independent sources reckon that you'll be looking at retained values of between 35 and 41% of your original purchase price, with the 1 litre T EcoBoost petrol models performing best. And that is on a par with obvious rivals. The Ford Fiesta has always been a vehicle the British public has warmed to, but the truth is that before this 7th generation model arrived, supermini buyers chose this car either because it was great to drive or because they'd been offered a deal that was too good to turn down. There really wasn't another reason to buy one. This model changes all that. Smarter to look at, smarter to sit in, and smarter to operate. A smarter choice all round then. Well, many will think so. This may not be the largest car in the supermini sector, but in just about every other respect, it's an ultra-competitive proposition. There's an unpretentious quality to it and a focus on providing things that really matter to small car buyers. The fun handling and the affordable asking prices that Ford has long delivered to them in this segment, but also the low running costs, the strong safety provision and the low emissions that are equally important in today's market. And it's all been done with a polish and a self-belief that we've never seen from a Fiesta before. Flawless then? Well, no, of course not. I've already alluded to the space constraints. Fortunately for Ford, most supermini buyers don't care too much about rear seat and boot space as long as it's somewhere near the class standard. We would like to have seen a little more work on the engine front, which hasn't really changed much at all, and it might help Ford with browsing buyers if its list price structure was closer to the actual figures that typical customers end up paying. Otherwise, there's much to like here. This design could easily have gone the way of Ford's EcoSport SUV and become something of a compromised global product. Instead, the Fiesta feels as perfectly suited to our market as ever. We thoroughly approve of the smarter cabin, the wider range of derivatives is interesting, and the car itself has a cheeky, endearing quality that many more clinical rivals lack. In short, this is, more than ever, a small car that supermini buyers simply can't ignore.